Hello, everyone. My name is Evey, and I'm currently a product manager taking care of the product experience at Rakuten Viki. I've been working as a product manager in Singapore for 4 years, usually in a very lean product team serving international markets. And I'm sure many of us in the room today work in the same setup, and it could be really challenging if the product team and the target market speak different languages. This could be when the product team operates in one working language, for example, English, but the users we serve could speak Spanish, French, Chinese, or Thai. Many times, what we end up doing is to design and implement the product in the working language of the product team because that's how we communicate internally. And then product localization is often the last step where we have the messages and text in the product translated and adapted to the local markets. But what we sometimes don't realize is how, when the product team and the target market speak different languages, this language difference, and by extension, the cultural difference, could introduce biases into our product decisions. These biases, if left undetected, can make it harder for our users of the target markets to access the product's value proposition. In today's presentation, I'd like to share with you a couple of examples of how these biases could affect our product decisions, as well as some suggestions on how to overcome them. Without further ado, let's dive straight into the first example. What you see on the screen is a screenshot of the split bill feature designed for the Southeast Asia market, specifically Thailand. So in this feature, a user can send a request to another user asking them to pay back a specific amount of money. So let's see whether you can notice what's wrong with this screenshot. So in the remarks section, if you pay attention, you'll see the maximum length of the remarks is measured by the number of words. So to be exact, a user can type in 0 to 50 words in the remarks section. So what's interesting is that the Thai language is similar to the English language in the sense that different words can have different lengths. And the only way to cap the length of the remark is by the number of characters. So usually the free text field would have 0 to 250 characters cap. So then you may ask what happened here in this design. Why is it that we have a 0 to 50 words cap to begin with? And the reason is that the product team that was working on this feature was based in China, and the working language for the team is Chinese. And in Chinese, counting characters is the same as counting words because one word is one character. So they are very used to seeing this kind of design in everyday product in China. And that's why they carried this thinking into the product design for Southeast Asia. And this is an example of how such a subtle difference could introduce bias into the product decision. Let's take a look at another example, grammar drama. So in the screen here, we have a chat room or a virtual party feature created by a product team with the working language being English, and then the target market is Vietnam. So in the English language, I'm sure we all know there are different grammar rules for plural and singular nouns. So when there are less than two people in the waiting room, so that would be the second screenshot on the screen, we would say no person has joined or one person has joined. And if the number of people is more than two, we would say two people or three people have joined. So an example of that would be the first screenshot on the screen. So, however, in the Vietnamese language, there's no such difference in grammar between when there are fewer than two people versus when there are two or more. So essentially what happened is the team ended up spending time fine-tuning the messages in English. And the engineering team will also need to take care of this kind of special logic in the code. But the reality is that it did not matter to the local users who would be using this feature in their native tongue in Vietnam. Now let's take a look at another interesting example related to humor. So we have all heard of how disastrous it could be when humor got lost in translation. To speak to the heart of the people, the messages need to be designed in the language of the target audience. What you see on screen right here is on the left-hand side is a very popular mobile wallet in Vietnam called Momo, and they have a ton of wish cards that is meant for Vietnamese users to send to one another. And these are extremely witty to the Vietnamese users. On the right-hand side is a screenshot of the Taiwanese couple stickers on Telegram, which are meant for Taiwanese users. So it works because these features were designed for the local audience in their target language. There isn't going to be one set of wish cards or one set of stickers that will fit all markets. In this case, it wouldn't work very well if the feature was designed in English and then adapted into different local languages. So far, we have been talking about the linguistic side of things. And an extension of the language divide between the product team and the target market is a cultural divide. So one example would simply be the amount of information that people from different regions are comfortable with. So you see on the screen, this is a screenshot of a video platform called Bilibili in China, which is very similar to YouTube. So if you notice, there are white comments at the top of the video, which are in Chinese 弹幕 or bullet comments. So when a user is watching a video, these comments would be flying across the screen, and there would be usually a lot of such comments flying across the screen as someone is trying to watch the video. To Chinese internet users, especially the younger generations, they are not only used to this chaos on the screen, but also enjoy it very much. And this pattern of packing a lot of information into the product design is not uncommon in China. So people in China who are very used to how social media work would be very familiar and very comfortable with the large amount of information packed into the product. So imagine someone who is very attuned to this amount of information could carry this bias into the product decisions they make for other markets who might not be so comfortable with a large amount of information packed in the product. So the purpose of me showing you these examples is to demonstrate how the language we speak or the culture we are familiar with can influence our product decisions very subtly. Things that we think are obvious or common sense might not be obvious or common sense to the target markets at all. So the question is, how can we keep our biases in check and not let language differences become a barrier for our customers to enjoy our products? I have 3 suggestions to share with all of you. Well, some may say the obvious answer is to do market research, and you're absolutely right. Do market research and try comparators apps to figure out what works for the local market. But the challenge is local users speak local languages, and comparators apps that cater to the local markets are also in the local language. It is really hard to do market research and comparators analysis if you do not have a local representative in your product team. So therefore, my first suggestion is to have local representatives from your key target markets in your team. And I cannot stress enough the importance of this. These people who not only speak the language, but also understand the culture, will be able to drive the market research and comparative product analysis. They would be the advocate for the local market's needs. So it depends on the company's arrangement. This role could be a local product manager who would work very closely with the regional product management team, or the role could be a local user experience researcher. The bottom line is, if you want to reach the heart and the soul of the local market, you need to speak the language. The second suggestions that I have is it is really important to frequently have face-to-face connections with users in the target markets. So the more regional, the more global a product company is, the more important it is to encourage the product team to be on the ground, connect with the users to truly experience what they are facing on a daily basis. So I've worked with product teams in China building payment products for Southeast Asia who are thinking they're building the Alipay of Southeast Asia. But the problem is China payment market is at least 10 years ahead of the Southeast Asian market when it comes to technology adoption. So the team themselves are expert users when it comes to mobile payment in China, and it's hard for them to relate to how many Southeast Asian users are still just beginners in adopting cashless payments. So this is the reason why I know it's going to be unpopular opinion at this stage when people are encouraging more virtual discussions and meetings instead of business travel. But I cannot stress enough the importance of having product team being on the ground and having that real human connection with the users so they can truly empathize with the problems that the users experience. Last but not least, localization should happen as early as possible in the problem definition and the product design phase. So we need to incorporate the local experience into prototyping. There are free tools out there that make it a lot easier if your company and your team use cloud-based design tool like Figma. There are great free plugins out there that would allow you to load in different versions of text in different languages into the same design. So you could have multiple versions of the prototypes in different languages. So not only does this help designers make adjustment for element dimension by looking at which language has the shortest versus longest text, but you can also use these prototypes to talk to local users and get their feedback. In short, for today's presentation, I have shared a couple of examples on what happened when product teams and target markets speak different languages. And I have also shared with you guys a couple of suggestions on how to overcome this challenge. Firstly, it's important to have local representatives in the product team who can advocate for the needs of the people. Secondly, it's important to have face-to-face connection with users regularly so that we always stay connected with what is the most important to users. And last but not least, it's crucial to incorporate the local experience into the prototyping process so that we can get feedback as early on as possible on whether the product decisions are right. And with that, I would like to end my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you very much.